Hi, I'm Christine. I'd like to welcome you to my channel, to the mini experiences or the mini series of Christine, the M-I-N-I, not the M-A-N-Y. Welcome. We're going to talk about prophecy today, being fulfilled. The title of this video is The Good in My Life, Part 1. Thank you. Ready? It's a short story. And it begins. About 20 years ago, I met an evangelist in another city with the same surname as mine. Unexpectedly, my gifts were revealed. Gifts are without calling unto repentance unto salvation. Here's a little short story to help encourage you in the use of the gifts that the Lord has so graciously given to all of us. My story began about 20 years ago. I had this desire to write a book. Well, I started out on what I thought would only take a few days, but instead it took about 20 years, not to write the book, but to be obedient enough to sit down and write it. I started to write a book entitled, I Remember. That was the first title of the book, in which later on it would be called by another name. I'll reveal that in the future. I tried and tried to write the book. However, after I had written 12 pages, I couldn't think of anything else to write. At page number 12, I was visiting my sister in another city. So one morning I got up to go to church and I took the book that I had been musing through and held it while looking at it, and I said, I can't write anymore. I need to grow up some more. I don't have enough experience in life yet, I guess, so I thought. So I took the book of 12 pages and I put it away in a safe place. Early that same Sunday morning, I went to church and there was a visiting prophet and he was talking on and on. And when suddenly he came over to me and he said, get up, come up here, stand right there. He said, you're writing a book, aren't you? I said, yes. But this morning, I stopped short in the middle of my sentence. He said, this book is going to become a bestseller. And then I told him the story shortly, how I had put the book of the 12 pages away to write more when I gained some more experience. He never ceased to tell me in depth the details concerning that book, even to the story of it falling into the hands of a little girl whose life would change or be changed by the book. He prophesied also that I would do television, produce television programs, movies, etc. Also, he told me that I would write songs, poetry, and many, many books. The books are steadily being birthed. Right now, I have about 33 books. I just like to add that. Shortly afterward, I gave my hand a try at writing poetry. I was amazed to find that I could even write poetry. The words began to flow, and the next thing I knew, I had written 12 poems. I was so overjoyed and pleased with myself. I boasted to my two nieces of how this was all prophesied to me. Also, I told them of the other things that the prophet had said. To my amazement, their responses was, ha ha, yeah, right. I thought to myself, I believe God. I must admit I was not discouraged, but their responses did hurt me. The Lord didn't stop there. Shortly afterwards, the Lord dealt with me about going on the radio. I obeyed only to hear my husband of 2 years ask me if I had lost my mind. He said, you know, you just can't just jump up and go on the radio. He said, you've never been on the radio before. I told him that I had something in common with everyone that was ever on the radio. And he said, what? I said, they all had a first time on the radio. He could not argue with me. He could not argue with that statement. So reluctantly, my husband drove me to the radio station and said to me, I'll wait for you in the car. I don't want anyone to know that you're my wife when you make a fool out of yourself. I had to pass my way on into the radio station, or press my way on into the radio station, despite my amazement at his attitude. And I remember thinking, is he for real? I trust you, Lord. After coming out of the radio station and holding a tape of my first broadcast, I was really pleased with the way that the Spirit of the Lord had gotten the glory. My husband was proudly turning the radio up once popping the tape in so that he could hear the announcements concerning my program. Even now, all I can remember when I first laid eyes on him after coming out of the radio station was his proud smile from ear to ear. He was completely overwhelmed with unbelief that I had, as he put it, sounded so great on the radio. The fact that I was a natural puzzled him even the more. A few years later, I would branch out in a new broadcast in a much bigger city. And through obeying the Lord, I also was able to not only teach and preach the gospel, but also to read my poetry and sing my own songs on the radio, which I do write songs. I have written approximately 300 poems. Also, the poems are placed in stores throughout the area and sold in 8 by 10 prints and also in miniature poetry books. It would take numerous hours to explain the way that the gifts of writing have blessed my life and many other people. These short stories concerning the words of knowledge spoken over my life are not to boast in my gifts, but rather in the promises of God. If the Lord have spoken a word over your life, you can take it to the bank. I hope this little story will help you to better understand how one gift can lead to many other areas and other gifts that are indirectly related. There may be many who do not share in your belief. Many may mock you or scorn you. You may not get the support from your loved ones, particularly the ones who claim to love you the most. But be encouraged. The Lord will use the people that are a part of his plan for your life. Those that he does not use to help you, do not be angry with them. In a situation where the